Good afternoon, everyone.
Howdy.
From Lola, Montana, Dunrovin Ranch. I want to introduce my good friend, our bookkeeper, and our all-around ranch gal. You've seen her many times. This is Paula
Hi.
Goldberg.
Hi.
We've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
She came out here many years ago to horseback ride, did you not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then she became one of our equestrian club members, which was a group of women who regularly rode. And she has painted horses. She has been instrumental in our equine art extravaganza. And I know that many of you have chatted with her online.
Yeah. Hey, Paula is my...
Hey, Paula. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is Paula.
Hi.
And the poor girl happened by today, so I said, come on down.
Roped me in.
Yeah, roped her in. And today we're going to talk about our bird feeding station. And I call it a bird feeding station instead of the bird feeders because we have some serious plans for this little part of Dunrovin. I so enjoy the animals and the birds that come here, in part because we bring in a different group of birds. And we call this the bench bird feeding station because if you notice that over here the land falls off. So this is kind of like a bench that overlooks the riparian forest, which is directly to the east of this bench. So this creates what's called an ecological edge. And ecological edges are very important because it's the transition from one habitat type to another habitat type, from the fields to the forest. And oftentimes wildlife hang out there so that they can take advantage of resources that are on both. And this is particularly true for birds. The birds like the cover of the forest, but they also know that other things are available in the fields. So that's one of the reasons that you see different birds here than you see on the osprey nest bird feeders, which are very exposed.
They're not that far away.
They're not that far away. Yeah, but the Lewis's woodpecker, I don't know that I ever saw it over there. Maybe once. I think maybe once we did, but he hung out over here because their nest is over here. There are a lot of woodpeckers that nest in wood, in particularly cottonwood trees. So this is a close place for them to come. Similarly with the raccoons and the squirrels and the deer, they all like to have this cover. So this is a perfect place to have a feeder. And as you know, the birds, they're messy. Yeah. Really messy.
And they do it on purpose.
They do. I think they do.
No,
yeah, they're wasteful. Yeah, right. And last year, I unexpectedly, the raccoons showed up in force last winter. I do believe that we counted a whole number 10 at once. I
think the most I've seen is 7 or 8, but yeah.
Yeah. They came. I didn't even know we had this many. Right. I knew we had them because you can see them off our deck at our house every once in a while. You can see them.
Or a sign of them getting grubs.
Right.
Leaving a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, one day, this was a long time ago, I went into my kitchen and I have sliding glass doors that overlook my deck. Okay, so I go in to get something. I turn the lights on. This is in the middle of winter, and on the deck is a raccoon. And I think, oh, this is fun. This is great. Huh. It wasn't winter. It was more fall, all right? And then I go in, and I come back out a half an hour later, and I turn the light, and there's a skunk. I'm thinking, we got a little highway going here. And so there are a lot of animals around here. As you know, you've seen foxes. We definitely have skunks.
Not quite as charming.
Pardon?
Not quite as charming.
Not quite as charming. But I also have to tell the story that we did have a group of skunks that denned near where we were.
Oh.
All right? And I thought, oh, this is not going to work. But somehow, even with 2 dogs, it did. Yeah. Everybody knew that they had to give each other a little space here. This was not things to be trifled with, and it went fine. So I don't mind skunks as long as they don't, play with my dogs. Yeah, they're very pretty to watch, in point of fact. Yeah. All right. So right now we have 4 feeders on the bird feeding station. One has thistle feed. The other one has sunflower seeds. That's the one closest to me. And the other one has a mixture of different kinds of grain. And then, of course, we have the suet feeders for the woodpeckers and the magpies and those that are kind of scavengers. But as many of you have noticed since we've done some rearranging here, and I really want to thank James for all the work he has put into this, both James Wassam and G3. G3 built this wonderful structure for us to hang the bird feeders on, and as you may see here, we have a new crank system, and if you crank the system, there must be a lock here. They go up and down. I don't know how to operate it. There we go.
Yeah.
Now it'll go down, and they all come down. So these are kind of heavy, these bird feeders. So the person who is filling the bird feeders will be able to bring them all down at once, fill them all at once, and then crank them back up. So now it's locked the other way. That's kind of a clever thing he's got here. How do I do that?
You have to take the pressure off.
Okay, I'll take the pressure off. All right, very good. Thank you.
Is that about it?
Yeah, perfect. Very good. That's a little bit too high.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Yeah, so we are going to figure this out exactly where to put them.
There?
I think so. James and I will work to figure out exactly where they go so that you can see the bird feeders and, the ground all at the same time.
I think that's locked.
It's caught?
Oh, yeah, it's caught.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And as some of you noticed this morning, we had a number of fox squirrels. I want to say that the fox squirrels are not native to Montana. They're an invasive species, and we do have the red squirrels around as well. Those are native to Montana. They're much smaller, and they're much more nimble, in fact, than the fox squirrels. But the fox squirrels are welcome. They can come here. I do miss the red squirrels because they are the ones that do the chattering, yeah, and scold each other. Every now and then we still see them. At any rate, they have been playing here with the branches, the dead branches and the wood that James put underneath here, and I think this is wonderful. In fact, I think we should probably nail some of them together so that when the deer come and the raccoons come,
kick them over.
They don't just kick them over and spread it all around, but it's a nice place to catch all of the seeds that the birds are spreading around. And many of you have also noticed that our water is filling up with bird seeds from the sunflower seeds from this first feeder. So some of you suggested, and we will follow your suggestion, to switch that one more towards the interior. And we also saw that one of these enterprising squirrels got up onto that bird feeder. And standing out here, have we figured out really?
Well, best guess
yeah.
is this tree over here, and they're leaping from there onto the top support of the steel frame, and then getting in the feeders.
Yeah. So I think I'll ask James to come and top off these long branches so the squirrels can't get up on the top of the structure for the bird feeders. But I liked watching the squirrel come up and down to this water, and I thought, what if we, instead of trying to discourage the squirrels, we did something to encourage them, but in a way that was fun to watch. So, poor James is rolling
Dunrovin circus.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of a tray underneath the bird feeders that would catch some but not all of the seeds. There'd still be seeds left for the raccoons and the deer and the turkeys that fall down, but there would be some way of keeping the squirrels out from climbing up it, but onto the frame so they can get at the actual bird feeder. But then rig up some kind of a Rube Goldberg machine.
Yeah, or a teeter-totter.
A teeter-totter, a rope, some sort of thing that would encourage the squirrels to come up in there and clean up. So I want to put my mind to this, and I'm going to talk with G3, our welder guy, and see if we can't come up with some sort of fun little trough thing that would be underneath primarily the one feeder that is the most spilled all the time. It's the sunflower seeds.
Right.
So right now I am standing in front of Annie's tree, and James, if you wouldn't mind putting up some photos of Annie so people can take a look at Annie.
Remember,
for those of you who do not know Annie, and I will tell you little stories.
Was it this time of year?
It was December, November. Yeah, it was 2017.
Yep.
Yeah. So the end of the year, 2017, and so this is Annie's tree, and many of you contributed to purchasing this tree, and I really appreciate that. We bought a spruce because we wanted it over here near a feeding station, and the squirrels don't climb spruce because they're very prickly. And I've never seen a squirrel on a spruce tree. But this tree is what's called a fat Albert tree, and it will grow accordingly. But my Annie was the first Tennessee walking horse that I ever owned, and she was the first horse to come with me to Dunrovin Ranch. She was a bay, and she was a real tug of a horse. She just loved going, and particularly loved the water. I'd take her down in the river, and she would just dig into the river. Just loved it. Just loved it.
Yeah.
But very soon after I purchased her, she became permanently lamed. I had her operated on twice, but we never really could fix it. She had a compression break in her knee. So basically, she was retired for nearly the 20 years that I owned her. But she was still queen of the pastures.
Right.
She was head mare for a long, long time. She gave birth to Our Lady Lanza, and in the last summer of her life, she was grandma to our Augie. Yeah, and a good grandma, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the three of them together, so Annie is a bay, Lanza is kind of a champagne, kind of a deeper blonde, and Augie is quite blonde, almost white. And I loved seeing the three of them together, just that combination. It was really pretty.
It was pretty, wasn't it? And Annie was the one who would discipline Augie. Lanza was a pushover. Yeah. But Annie would, make him shoe off and wouldn't put up with his nonsense. And it was wonderful to see in her last year. And happily, Annie's last months were fine. Her decline was very precipitous. It wasn't so very dramatic or gradual, but it was very clear that her time had come. And she basically told me one day when I went out there, and she looked me in the eye and said, "It's time, Mom. Will you help me?" Yeah. And I did. And I'm hopeful that James has the picture, the collage of her up there now, when you can see people were painting her. She's with all kinds of friends. People loved her. She was great with children. We used her, in fact, as a Halloween prop for people to paint, and they loved working with her because she was very warm and friendly and didn't, ever push anybody around. She just was loved being loved on, and she saw the painting as loving on her. So, yeah, that was Annie. And you can take the photos down now, James. We do have lights in Annie's tree, which, of course, we will put on as the daylight falls, as after daylight savings time goes off. But I also wanted to say that this initial structure is just phase 1 of 3 phases, or possibly even 4 phases, that we are going to erect here at the feeding station, the bench feeding station. And the reason we put this apparatus here in this particular position is we are going to connect it now to the pole where the web camera is mounted, and on that pole, high up so other animals can't get at it, we are going to have a series of hummingbird feeders. Yeah, and it'll give very good close-ups.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be right next to the camera, so the camera can see very carefully. We have 3 species of hummingbirds here in western Montana, and they're all beautiful. We've had hummingbird feeders before. You really have to be careful to keep the sugar up, or the bears are going to get into it. So that's one of the reasons for the height of this. So from this bird feeding station, we'll have a kind of an elaborate lattice with hummingbird feeders, little balls that are all beautiful glass balls. So it'll really be fun as they catch the light and seeing the beautiful birds. And that's going to come this spring. We will put that up, and we will start our hummingbird feeding station. And once they catch on, they come in.
I think we have a pretty long hummingbird season.
Yeah, we do.
I think it only ended maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I think so. Oh, the dogs just saw a squirrel who was getting anxious for us to leave. Yeah. But, okay, so that's phase 2. And then phase 3 is we're going to get rid of this water here, and we're going to have James 3, who is a stonemason and a welder and just an all-around artistic guy with, wonderful visions. I have asked him to create a water feature that will have a small pool for the birds, and that would be heated in winter, but then would cascade down and recirculate, so we would have the sound of water during the winter time through a little tumbling brook right here.
Excellent.
Right. Don't you think that'd be fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll pitch my tent.
Yeah.
I'll just live here.
Yeah. I'm really getting excited about all of this. And so that would kind of be behind the logs that are on the ground where the bird feeder is, and in front of this fat Albert tree. So we would trim the fat Albert tree as it got higher and larger, so that the water feature would be in front of it, and low enough that the deer can drink out of it, and so it, attract all kinds of animals. So that's another phase, and that we won't start that probably until next fall. And then I also thought, well, gosh, we're putting all these fun things here. Why don't we just keep going? And now I'm sort of cogitating about a butterfly garden, planting some plants that bring the butterflies in. Right?
Right.
Yeah, and I also thought we should plant close by, but not close enough for the squirrels to use, but something like a mountain ash that bring in the cedar waxwings, the berry eaters. And I think it would be really pretty right here.
Well, if you put it close enough to the fence, you'll make some shade.
For the horses, that would be great, yes. And I also wanted to explain these pieces of ceramic, which are in the form of mountains. And I was going to have Paula help me move them, but tell your story.
Oh, well, yeah, so as I was standing near there, because that's where I was going to stand for talking to you guys, I noticed there's a massive ant, what is it called?
Colony?
Ant
nest.
And I'm like, okay, well, there they are. Look at that. And then 3 minutes later, I look down and they're all over my legs. And so, nope, we're not going to stand here anymore.
Right.
And
and we're not going to move that right.
And we're not going to move them right now. No.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is bring them into closer to the tree and somehow incorporate them in our brook situation. And I haven't quite figured that out. But
what are they made of?
Oh, they are ceramic, and they have important meaning to me because for 3 years, my nephew, Dean Leeper, was here at the University of Montana. He got a master's in fine arts in ceramics. And for his final project, he chose a theme of Montana's landscapes, kind of interpreted through ceramic arts. And these two pieces were part of a larger show that depicted the transition from forest to black via fire, and to help us all kind of find the beauty beauty when the fire moves on. Like our Lolo Peak, which we're looking at right now, used to be entirely green, and now there are lots of black spaces in there. And of course, they will heal, they will return, and they will go through phases back to green. Yeah. And so I love the intent of this. I think that our landscapes are ever changing, and we have to celebrate what we do have, not what we used to have. And I just like that whole idea. Plus, I love my nephew, and I so enjoyed having him back here. And he had his girlfriend here with him, and they just got married in August. I went back for their wedding. So it's a joyful thing for me to have these, and I'd like to incorporate them in some way in this bird feeding station.
And we could go as far as to say that it feeds your practice of incorporating art throughout the property.
Yes, it does. I've had an artist in residence several years, and I want to get back to that because I would like to have more permanently installed art because it reminds you of different things and asks you to see the world in a slightly different way, and I love that. So with that, is there anything I haven't touched on here? The phase 2 with the hummingbird feeders, the rock stream feature.
Other than we're open to ideas about entertaining us through the squirrels.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Give me your ideas. And what I'm thinking right now is something under the seed feeder, particularly the sunflower seed feeder, that would catch some but not all of the seeds. And it could be like a little funnel or something that, I don't know, we'll have to think about it, but then has some sort of a mechanism for the squirrels to take advantage of it. This will be fun to think about. I'm anxious to talk to G3 about it because he's full of ideas too. But send me your ideas. Let me know. And if you have any questions that you'd like us to address, we'll be back on in a couple hours. So leave them on the chat, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you might pose about the bird feeding station or about the bench or anything, about most anything. About Dunrovin for sure.
Right.
You'll see my dogs. They go with me everywhere. They're doing fine. And with that, we're going to say goodbye. Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Thank you for joining us.
Nice.
And we'll say goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.